So we just got a pretty surprising announcement from the developers, and honestly this is something the community has been asking for since the early days of the game. Older characters are finally getting buffed. And the timing is very interesting, because this announcement happened only one day before the upcoming live stream, which almost certainly means the developers are going to show the actual changes very soon. Right now though, we already know the first group of characters that will receive buffs. The confirmed ones are Firefly, Huohuo, Welt, and Seele. And that lineup is honestly pretty interesting because it covers completely different parts of the roster. Let's start with Seele, because this one might be the most symbolic buff of the entire group. Seele was the very first limited DPS character in the game, and for a long time she defined the early meta. But as more and more characters released, especially with newer mechanics and stronger scaling, she slowly started falling behind. So seeing her finally receive a buff is something many longtime players probably thought would never happen. Then there's Welt, who is one of the original standard banner characters. Welt has always had a very unique kit with his debuffs and turn manipulation, but in practice he hasn't been used very often in recent content. If Hoyoverse actually improves his damage or utility, he could suddenly become a lot more relevant again, especially in certain control-focused teams. Now the other two characters are actually more surprising. Firefly is still a relatively modern DPS and already quite strong in many situations, so people didn't necessarily expect her to be included in the first wave of buffs. And Huohuo is still one of the most popular sustained characters in the game right now. So the big question is what exactly Hoyoverse plans to change for them. It might not necessarily be raw power buffs, but possibly adjustments that improve how their mechanics interact with newer systems. But according to leaks, this might not be the full list. Some leakers are saying that after this first group, Hoyoverse is already preparing the next set of buffs, and the names that keep coming up are Sunday and Jiaoqiu. If that actually happens, it would suggest that Hoyoverse is starting a much bigger initiative where they periodically go back and update older characters to keep them relevant. And honestly, that would be extremely healthy for the game. One of the biggest complaints players have had over the past year is how quickly certain characters get power crept by newer releases. If the developers are willing to revisit older kits and improve them over time, that could help stabilize the meta a lot and make older investments feel more valuable again. Now alongside these character buffs, there are also some pretty notable system changes happening. First of all, several characters are reportedly being added to the 50-50 loss pool. The ones mentioned right now are Silver Wolf, Argenti, and Yunli. So in the future, if you lose the 50-50 on a limited banner, there's now a chance that you could get one of these characters instead of the usual standard banner units. This is actually a pretty big expansion to the pool, and it could make losing the 50-50 feel a little less painful for some players. At the same time, the 5-star shop rotation is also getting updated. According to the information we have right now, Robin and Huohuo will be added to the shop. That means players will eventually be able to obtain them directly using the shop currency instead of relying entirely on their banners. And Huohuo in particular is a very valuable addition there, because strong sustained characters are always in high demand and not everyone managed to pull her during her original banners, and she is just getting a buff in 4.2. So overall this announcement is actually doing a lot of things at once. We have the first official buffs for older characters, potential additional buffs coming later, and some fairly meaningful changes to the banner system and the 5-star shop. And since the live stream is happening very soon, there's a very good chance we'll learn the exact details of these buffs within the next day. But now I'm really curious what you all think about this. Out of these characters, Seele, Welt, Firefly, and Huohuo, which one do you think needs the biggest buff, and what kind of changes would you actually like to see for them?